Welcome to the Disneyville podcast, episode 31.
31, baby. Today, we're so bad about doing intros. My name's Jessica.
My name's Tyler.
Now you know who we are. So today's episode, we are talking about extinct rides in Disney World specifically, and how we would rank them. So we picked 8 of the rides that have gone extinct in recent years that we have personally ridden, because there's a lot more, of course.
I say, that's the big caveat here, because there's so much that we did not get to ride for one reason or another. But I mean, these are the ones.
Usually that reason being we weren't alive or we weren't going to Disney then yet.
That's exactly it. So these are specifically rides that we have ridden, which means they're probably within the last 10 to 15 years. So if you've been in the last 10 or 15 years, you have a very good chance of doing this. But there's so many. Another episode we talked about doing is ones like, okay, if we could have it now, what would it be? Like ones that we never got to ride, like World of Motion, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
That could be a complete episode in its own.
Yeah, it really could be. So we're going to share all about the 8 rides that are extinct. We left out for now, like attractions that are other than rides, shows, lands. That could be a whole nother episode in itself in the future. But for today, we're just doing rides. So we're going to share the 8 that we're going to talk about, and we want you to play along. So pause. If you're listening or watching, pause it. We're going to read these 8 to you and then think about how would you rank them? Even if you're driving, like maybe just think, what are your top 3? Pull over, get out a pen and paper. No, but even if just figuring out, okay, what are my top 3 of those if you've ridden them? So you want to read them, Tyler?
All right. So we have the Backlot Tour, Stitch's Great Escape, The Great Movie Ride, Snow White's Scary Adventure, Lights Motor Action, which really that's a show. That was
doo-doo. Yeah, boy, that slipped right on by.
Well, it's on our list. Let's just keep going. It's too late. We can't edit. No edits. Go. Maelstrom, Primeval Whirl, and Ellen's Energy Adventure.
So yeah, all right. We're going to leave Lights Motor because both of us ranked it in there. I don't know how that slipped by me without me thinking that is obviously not a ride. So sorry, guys. We're doing whatever we want. Let's talk through these, shall we? And then at the end, we asked you guys on our Instagram and stuff for some of your feedback. And I'm excited to read through that because I haven't looked yet.
Yeah.
And
now we also really quickly will do our mug shots if you'd like to go first there.
Oh, yes. Well, today's mug is a Starbucks You Are There series mug type thing for the Magic Kingdom. And it's all yellow and blue. And it's got like Off to Neverland, the most magical place on earth, and just so many little characters and rides and stuff. And of course, a big castle.
It's got
makes
fireworks
me so happy.
on it. Yeah.
It's got it all.
Haven't they updated the design since then, though?
I think so. Last time we were there, I was looking at Epcot and taking pictures, and I'm like, oh, I want these. So if we end up for our next trip here very soon, we're planning on driving down. We're going to see how it goes. Planning on driving down, with the 2-year-old, everything's just interesting, a little spicy.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah.
But if we're driving, we're like, ooh, we could get.
We're gonna buy
mugs. We could get new cutie things for our shelf here. Like
we're gonna buy that $200,000 Crystal Castle we've had our eyes on for so long.
With what money?
with $200,000, obviously.
Yeah, I just gotta find it. I just gotta be a rescuer.
My mug here is just a classic. It just says 1928, has a classic Mickey Mouse face on it, and it just says Mickey Mouse. That's all.
It is a goodie.
Classic. Love this one.
All right, so let's talk through them, shall we, friends?
All right.
So first up, let's talk about the Studio Backlot Tour. So we'll give a little synopsis of it. It was in Hollywood Studios, and it was back in really the whole area is defunct. Oh. It was this whole area where it was very much like you were on a studio lot.
Right.
And that's really all you need to know because then we'll talk through what actually occurs on it.
Right.
But there was a lot of pieces to this ride.
What I feel like you're going to hear a lot throughout this episode is I'm going to be like, man, that was the best ride. Because everything on this list, I'm like, man, I loved that. Oh, I'm so sad it's gone.
Yeah.
So that's just going to be my mantra. Oh, man, I love that. So, okay. How to even describe this to somebody who didn't get to do it? It was so immersive. And you got to go through so many different things. Like you said, there were so many different parts to it. Like before it even started, like you were standing in the queue and they had, was it Jaws? They were like emulating, and it was like this water rescue thing or something like that. And they were doing like all these different stunts.
And it was like a show. So you're not even on the ride yet, and you're already watching like this show. And I feel like it was like 5 to 10 minutes long. They'd get volunteers from the crowd. Yeah. Like, so I guess in theory it's part of the ride. But yeah, you're like standing there watching this, and then they funnel you through to the next thing. And so the whole point is that you're seeing all these, in theory, behind the scenes.
Right. It was a studio.
Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a studio tram tour, which you can actually take real studio tram tours. And if you remember, when Hollywood studios first opened, Michael Eisner's idea was that it was going to be a working movie studio. And it kind of was for a little bit. Not really. Bette Midler did some stuff there.
She hung out a window, waved a cloth.
What movie did they even do there? I forget now. I forget what movie. Anyway, but yeah, so but the idea was that it was this movie set, and then you could go and be on it. So like, there's other places in Universal and other places where you can actually do a backlot tour. But that's what the idea was. But it was kind of turned into a fanciful ride version of it. And way back in the day,
It's the Disney way.
you used to be able to see the Golden Girls house. Because the facade shot from the Golden Girls, that house was in Hollywood studios. Anyway.
That's very cool.
Then, let's see, what else? Okay, so then Catastrophe Canyon was like
So you actually get on the tram itself.
Yeah,
you
that was
kinda
all
walk
on
through,
the tram, yeah.
Well, you see the show.
Right.
And then you walk through. Do you remember that like museum of like artifacts and props
Was
to
that
then get in line?
before?
I think it's technically part of the queue.
Okay.
And that's when you would line up to get onto the tram. I do remember that vividly.
I remember the area, but I didn't remember where it was in the sequence.
I think it was after
We should have
that.
watched a ride through this.
Oh, you better believe I'll be doing that after this. It's fun to just go purely off
Pure
memory.
here, yeah.
50% of it's probably wrong. But yeah, then you would get on the tram and it would whip you around Catastrophe Canyon where there was this ginormous, again, it was meant to be like showing you how they would do this effect for a movie.
Right.
And it would have this huge like tanker truck that like crashed and like almost flies into you. And then water, like there was fire and then like
Yeah. The best part
gallons and
about
gallons
this,
of water.
the best part about this Catastrophe Canyon is you're starting to watch it and like you can hear them say action, like, and they're going to film this scene. And it's like, wow, that's really big. Oh my gosh, now that's happening. Wow, that's so big. This is so huge. And it just kept building and building and building.
yeah.
It and then something would explode. You're like, oh my gosh, that exploded. Like I didn't expect.
feel
Like,
the
I
heat,
thought
yeah.
it was already done. And then the best part was all this stuff is happening. You're like, holy cow, this is the craziest thing ever. Then a waterfall with 40 billion gallons of water would come out of nowhere.
Over the canyon.
Over the
like,
canyon, like above your head. Like just when you think like, wow, this is crazy. It's gotten so big. It got bigger.
And that's what I think is crazy that this, and we're not even to the end of the ride, okay? But that's what's so crazy to me that they ended up closing this down because I'm sure, I mean, I can imagine it was a lot of moving parts. It was a lot of live actors involved and, well, I guess just a handful, but still. And it took up a big footprint of space.
Yeah.
But it's such a shame because the amount of money it had to have taken to
Yeah.
build this thing the way that it was.
Yeah.
So you continued on, and then what would you see?
Well, I was
when
going to
you
say
would
one
see-
last thing is it was cool because once they would say, all right, cut, that scene would be done. You could see because it looked so real, but then you could see this, like it was the tanker truck was like on a mudslide or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see them reset the scene as you're like
Leaving.
And I always thought that was so cool to see them
perfect,
like
yeah.
put it back in place so that they could do the shot again or whatever. And I just thought that was so cool.
Well, and it was also cool because I'm pretty sure once you got out of the canyon area, you would see intentionally that the back was just like a flat board.
Scaffolding. And yeah. It was just a set. But when you're in the canyon, it felt so real. It brings the magic of the movies to life. But then, okay, so what else did you do? I remember you would drive by the streets of America and you could see people on it, but from the angle you were at, they had a scrim or whatever in the back that made it look like the city kept going. So as you were kind of riding by, you could see, okay, it looked like actually a city street.
Yeah.
But then once you were off the ride, you could walk around.
And you would, I feel like you were always never far from the Lights Motor Action stunt show too. Like, I feel like I always remembered being near that, being like, oh, it's right there. And then, of course, you see the Golden Girls house, and there were a couple other famous houses.
You went past the costuming department. You remember that?
Yeah.
You would drive like through this area and you could see people on either side working on costumes, like cast member costumes and stuff for the shows and stuff like that.
Which is crazy because how much did they really do there? Because obviously they have that, I'm sure, elsewhere.
I don't know.
So
They
it's
might
an
have actually
interesting
been doing
thought.
it there.
Yeah. So many moving parts. We could talk about this forever, but that ride was crazy. And it really was sad when it shut down.
Yeah.
But you also had to make a huge commitment of time if you were going to do it. Because not only might you wait a while,
Yeah.
But then, I mean, the ride itself was long.
Well, it's funny because you're looking at something like by far the longest ride right now is Rise of the Resistance. And it's multiple pieces and all that kind of stuff. And people are like, this is such a new thing. Like, this has never been done before. And I'm like, honestly, it kind of was. Like, this was like a 40-minute ride. And it was, but I'm like, nowadays, I feel like everything they're building is so short. I mean, Tron and Guardians and all these things that are awesome rides, but they're like 2 minutes long and you're waiting so long. Like, these, at least, you're like, okay, I'm getting my money's worth because this was a 40-minute experience I just went through here.
All right. I'm on Wikipedia about this. It was replaced by, it says Toy Story Land, which makes sense as to where it is. Like we were looking at old maps, like that is just the other day, where it was. But what's funny is Wikipedia also says it was replaced by the Magic of Disney Animation and Animation Courtyard. I'm like, no. I'm like, well, maybe. But I'm like, no, that's kind of off to the
already there.
Side. So yeah, 35 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, that was
and
awesome.
Again, that's not including waiting time. So yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
But you're right. I've never made that connection between Rise of the Resistance is so cool because of the multiple parts. And you think, wait, am I on the right? Has it started? Like, oh yeah, it has. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how.
Yeah, that was too. Yeah.
Love that.
Also, really quickly, if you're watching the video version here, you can see I have a Pleasure Island shirt on as a, an homage to things that are extinct. I have a Pleasure Island shirt. Also, I switched out our artwork, so now it says Snow White's Scary Adventures.
You can only see the bottom half, but nonetheless.
Well, just trust me. On the
I told
top
Tyler, what do you guys think? If you're watching, I feel like we should lower this shelf down because then we could see everything a little easier. Our heads aren't anywhere near hitting it. Like it's not. I just feel like if it was here,
it's gonna be such a to-do though.
Well, now that the hole is fixed.
Yeah, I got to move it down, and then I got to patch and paint, and it's going to be a whole thing.
Yeah, just put stuff.
I
in
don't
front of where you
disagree
need
with
to
that.
patch.
It should be done.
It's
what I
just a
disagree
matter
with
of-
is
Yeah, and I have
doing
other
it.
shelves for you to hang up
I have
upstairs.
my ever-growing to-do list. Anyway, okay. So
Next up.
Stitch's Great Escape. Where to even start with this one? Okay, so it's the area, as far as I know, is still there because didn't we recently? No, we walked through. Not that we walked through Monsters Inc. for the trick or treat.
Yeah,
That's what it was. But as far as I know, this is still there. But it was so many different iterations before it became Stitch. I think it was like Mission to Mars. It was Flight to the Moon.
Extra
it was
terrestrial.
the extra terrestrial. It became Stitch. But it was in the long and short of it is you would kind of go through a little bit of a queue. There was a show, and then there was this round theater, and there was a big thing in the middle. And then
Kind of like a tube.
right, and when it was Stitch, there was this big tube, and Stitch would kind of come in. So that's kind of really all you need to do is sort of a multi-sensory experience. But we can actually kind of now talk through the entire thing.
Yeah, but hold on. Also noting it's in Tomorrowland.
Right.
And the area, I think you said this, still is there, but no one knows like what is Disney doing with that. And
There's
I
nothing in
feel like
there.
Tomorrowland deserves a little more love. Okay. I really do.
Yeah.
That's all. So that's just this open area. I'd be so curious, like, is all that still just sitting in there?
I would bet.
Don't you wonder?
I would bet. I don't know.
Ooh, if you guys know, let us know.
At one point, I think when Tron opened, they used the little lobby area, I think, as like a little pop-up gift shop. But I don't think I mean, that obviously didn't last very long, but that's as far as I know, that's all they've used that for ever since it closed. And it was kind of, it was not permanently closed. It was like what am I trying to say? Temporarily closed for a while.
Type thing, yeah.
But then it just never reopened.
Yeah, it's like the Little Mermaid magic of whatever it's called.
in
Voyage
Hollywood
of Little
Studios.
Mermaid. It's just temporarily closed for ever.
Yeah. So, okay. So you would walk in and there was this lobby and there was a few tiny little like 12-inch TV screens around and the cartoon Lilo and Stitch would kind of come up and it was like the aliens and they were kind of explaining stuff. And it was cool because they used this alien writing, which was really, if you looked really close, you could actually read it because it was just a really highly stylized font.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, you could kind of look at it and see, you could figure out what it was saying. And so you would kind of be in this little lobby area. They would open up the doors. That might have even been outside. I can't remember if it was outside or inside where those little TVs were.
I instantly was like inside, but now
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe it was. I feel like there was an area inside you did wait and you still saw more. So maybe. You saw some outside and then
went inside.
Yeah, either way.
But you would go in and there was like this little multi-level thing where you would stand and then you would turn and there was a robot Richard Kind that would stand there and do this whole pre-show. And they had 2 tanks on either side and it was a teleportation device. And so you could see on the TV screen this the guy got caught stealing donuts or something like that. And then they're like, all right, transporting in right now. But it's Richard Kind, so it was hilarious. And so then it would like steam up and then it would show up. And then they were going to bring in a second one on the other side, right?
Yeah. You're blowing my mind because I'd forgotten about this second area.
Yeah. And it was like a cartoon, but then he obviously showed up like physically, so it was a cool.
So it was
little
cool.
Effect.
It was cool.
But then they're like, you got your level 1s and your level 2s. Level 1s are all you guys are going to do, because they were like, we were recruits. That's what we were. Like, we were going to start working at this place. And then they were like, this guy's a level 2 or whatever. And they're like, incoming level 3, which turned out to be Stitch. And so he was like the most dangerous, but you don't find that out until a little bit later. But you go into this big theater and they like strap you down. They had these big
over the head onto your shoulders.
Yep. And they were like these multi-sensory things. So like Stitch would eventually come in and
into the center cylinder.
Right.
Kind of like, think about like the banks.
Yeah.
When you'd put the thing, but like way more giant.
Yeah. But somehow he escaped, obviously.
Naturally.
And
Stitch's
all the
escape.
lights went out. And he would like belch and you could smell like coney
Chili.
dogs, your chili dogs. Then you would have, he would like land on your shoulders and they would bounce up and down.
He
It
would
felt
be
like he was
jumping around the room.
on your shoulders.
At one point he like spits and you feel it.
Yeah.
Like it was generally actually pretty fun, but quite honestly, also kind of terrifying. When it got to that part and it was so dark,
Yeah.
and you couldn't see anything, like even I as an adult would be like, okay, I'm a little unsettled. Like, it's interesting. I wonder why in the end they closed it down, because Stitch doesn't have a great presence, but he's a very beloved character.
He is.
And he has a ton of merch. Like, but think about it.
And
what
he's
else
a big
is
people eater. I feel like it was a relatively
it's in the AC? Like,
easy kind of
I
thing.
wonder if things got broken down too often.
I don't know. I would be very curious. But then one of my quick side story, when it was the extraterrestrial, which I never got to do, I would love to have done that. But apparently it was, obviously you were scared of this. It was actually like terrifying.
But it was the same like setup and room and
Right, but
everything,
it wasn't like Stitch. It was just an alien. And one of my favorite stories is my mom and my aunt went to Disney World together, and I guess they were in the theater and they watched the show. And I think it was my Aunt Melinda, or maybe it's my mom. I think whatever. One of them was holding on to the other one's arm so tightly because they were so terrified that they had like a handprint on their arm for the rest of the day. It was like white, and it had like, because I think it was
literally white knuckling it.
My aunt holding onto my mom's arm so hard because she was so scared that she had like a handprint on her arm.
That's so cute. I love that.
All right. Well, we talked about that for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. I love
The
this
great
ride.
movie ride, you guys, the great movie ride. So this was in Hollywood Studios. It was not that long ago. I mean, a handful of years ago. So many of you guys probably rode it. So
I have a full ride through on my channel somewhere.
that's true. Yeah, you do. So just search yeah.
Because like I'm so mad I don't have like any footage. I don't think of the Backlot Tour or Stitch, that because we did those rides before we actually started filming our trips, and so I'm so sad I don't think I have any footage of them.
Yeah. But it is in the Chinese theater. So now, of course, that's Runaway Railway. I'm always interested in like where things were, like especially when that land is completely gone. Like for example, the Studio Backlot Tour. It's fun to look at old maps to see where it was.
I was just gonna say that, yeah.
But yeah, this one was in there, and it really was an homage, a love letter to Hollywood of olden days, the golden age of Hollywood. And so the song "Hooray for Hollywood" would play like at the very beginning of it, and you're going under these like glowing lights, and you're just like in a moving tram. I think it was magnets, right?
I don't know if they
Or
actually
maybe it was
drove
just programmed. Or
I don't know.
They might have driven it. Either way, similar vehicles to the Runaway Railway, but those are definitely like computerized.
Originally, they had live hosts doing it, and then the guy from Turner Classic Movies ended up doing the voiceover, which I actually preferred only because you could hear it. I feel like when it was the people, like the cast members doing it, half the time I couldn't understand what they were saying.
I think they had a lot to fit in the times they were, and they had to keep to a certain time. But the best part, so they would have live actors, and you're basically going through these different scenes of Hollywood. So it would have like these beautiful sets of like, oh, this is from Easter Parade in 1938, you know.
Yeah.
And it'd be turning, and there's scrims, and it was very magical.
Well, the very first one, when you first get there, it was supposed to be the Ziegfeld Follies, right?
They always said Easter Parade, though, and I was like,
But
what?
I think that was the name of the movie. But
Still,
it was
okay.
Or was it Busby Berkeley? No.
I've never looked into it.
Anyway, this huge thing was supposed to be, originally it used to spin, and then every time that we saw it, it just
And it was like basically like a
Yeti.
cake of a bunch of women, you know, and they're glittering, and it was just like it was mesmerizing to look at. But as you go through like scenes from Hollywood. So Casablanca,
gangster movies. You go through
Westerns. So two really interesting things about this ride is that one, when they had the live actors, halfway through, either a gangster or
a cowboy
would take over. No, that doesn't sound right. Why would the cowboy take over?
Because he was a shoot 'em up.
Well, either way, someone would take over and kick the host out. And so the host would get off of the tram and then gangster or whatever would come on.
Mm-hmm.
And then near the end, your original host would be in the set and would like come out and defeat him and then take over and everyone cheers.
Do you remember?
It was the Indiana Jones area.
Yeah. So the Indiana Jones, they would come out and they had this robe on. They'd be facing away from the ride vehicle.
And the gangster would need to steal the jewel.
Yeah.
That's a part of the set, right?
And then this big effect would happen where this fog came up and then they fell down and then they turned around and turned out it was your original host.
And so they jump back on and everyone cheers.
But there were 2 different tracks, right?
That was the other interesting thing, yeah.
Right. And so they could do multiple at once. So I think sometimes the cowboy took over and sometimes the gangster took over. But
Right.
it depended on how, but then you ended up
We
the same.
never saw the Western one.
We did.
You think?
I have video of it, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I only remember the gangster
I
one.
do too. We must have seen that one a lot more often.
I'm also convinced they reused some of the sets. If you really look at like the Western area of Runaway Railway, I'm like, I think they reused a lot of the physical sets.
Yeah.
Look, next time we ride it, pay attention. I could look it up too. I probably will.
Well,
But
there's all kinds
anyway.
of cool history because, like originally, apparently they had like John Wayne's actual belt buckle, and then at some point somebody stole the belt buckle, so then they had to use a fake one. But there was a lot of cool movie memorabilia in it. But there was so much. You went through Tarzan, you went through Indiana Jones, you went through Alien, you went through
Wizard of Oz.
The very end was Wizard of Oz, which the tornado
Mary Poppins.
in Mary Poppins. Oh, that was a good one. But the tornado that's in Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is a bit of an homage to the tornado you would go through right before the final scene, which was the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the Wizard of Oz scene, by the way,
So good.
was that near the end?
Yeah,
Either
I think
way,
that was the last thing you
that
did.
was the coolest. I
then
thought
you-
that was earlier on.
No, it was one of the last things you did, but the witch was like at the time the most I'm losing my mind today.
Advanced.
Technologically advanced that robot. Okay. Robot. But then after that, you would go into the big thing, and all the cars would line up together. Remember? And they had the big movie montage at the very end. That was the last thing you did. But the Wizard of Oz was the last scene that you saw before you went. And then they like started with Charlie Chaplin and went all the way through like these great movies
To about the 90s.
Yeah, to about the 90s, and then
You see like Beethoven, and then that was it. I feel like some of the scenes in there were so spectacular. Like the Wizard of Oz scene was humongous.
Mm-hmm.
It was a humongous room that you were in, and it was so detailed. It was so detailed.
Yeah.
I'm like, it is so, I can only imagine the people that were tasked with tearing that down, how hard that would have been.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. Anyway, I'm sure they kept the animatronics and but I hope they did.
You know, some Imagineers got something.
John
in there.
Stamos has that witch in his backyard for Halloween.
Exactly.
All right.
You're gonna have to talk about this one because I don't think I ever rode this one. Or I guess
Snow
I should
White
say
Scary Adventures.
I did when I was a kid, but I do not remember it.
I very, like, a little bit remember it. I remember it was pretty scary for, like, if you were a really young kid, but it was still just a classic dark ride. So you're going through, Snow White's story, but I just remember it being like, the witch turning towards you. It was a much darker version of the story.
Yeah.
So the new bit they did in Disneyland, where they changed it, is just a much more like family friendly. It is Snow White after all, but Snow White, like I'll watch the girls watch Snow White, like the scary parts where she's running through the dark of the forest and then the eyes. I'm like, that's pretty scary.
Yeah,
So naturally when you turn that into a ride, it's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
So I think they did a good job, but there is the part of me that wishes I could ride the old one. So of course in Disney World, they just closed it down and closed it. And what's in its place isn't it just Princess Fairy Tale Hall?
I think so, yeah. You know what I miss about
right?
these rides so much? And I was thinking about it with Great Movie Ride, but I'm sure this was the same. The smell. You're never going to get that Great Movie Ride smell back.
Wait, Great Movie Ride? Are you talking about that?
No, that's what I was thinking about it on the last one,
okay.
but
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
this one was that way too, where it has just that
Dark
very
ride dank smell.
Yeah, that very specific smell. Not the water dank smell. It's a different dank smell.
But not the other dank. Yeah.
The Disney dank smell. Anyway, okay,
I know.
sorry. All right, so this one is an imposter, and it should not be on our list. The lights.
I
motor
think,
action.
honestly, let's remove it because I've only seen it like once anyway.
We just always heard it in the background. Okay, cut that off your list.
All right, cut it off the list.
Pull back over. Put your blinkers on. Cross it off your list, and then you can.
We're
keep
not
going.
going to do it, okay? We're not doing it.
Okay.
Let's talk about the next one.
I love this ride. I miss it so much.
Maelstrom.
Maelstrom.
So this was in Epcot in Norway. And of course, Frozen Ever After replaced it.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say, I'm not on the bandwagon of they shouldn't have replaced it because I think most people are now over that because they did a really, really good job with Frozen Ever After. It's a really, really good ride. That said, I would pay a ridiculous sum to ride Maelstrom one more time.
I would too.
Because, okay, so you walk in and there was just like a classic Epcot McDonald's line, you know, it's like carpet and painted walls and whatever. It was like nothing. But then you would get to where the boats loaded up, which is now like I think where you first go in, that was where that room was because the whole track kind of got moved a little bit.
Yeah, they followed. I mean, a lot of the track was the same.
Exactly.
But they did adjust, the loading and unloading areas.
So, So it must have been right before. I think when you very first get into the ride where you see Olaf, that's where you used to load up because it's right after that you go up. And that's when you used to go. You would get on the boat and go right up and be Norway. But when you were loading up in the boats, they had this huge mural in the back.
I knew you were going to say that.
And it was fantastic. We got to look up a picture of this mural. There's so many cool bits and bobs in
Norway,
that.
Culture, history.
Remember the guys in the hard hats? Weren't there some trolls? There were some fjords.
They had it all, baby.
It was great.
But yeah, when you go up that initial hill, now what you see is Elsa's,
Ice castle.
Ice palace. What do they call it? Ice castle doesn't sound right, but maybe that is. But then you just saw this like light that you were like going up towards, and it was like talking about the spirit of Norway.
But didn't you see the troll's face? Wasn't there a troll face at the top? Or did I make that up? I might have made that up. I thought there was a troll face up there.
If there was, and I missed it all of those times, I'm going to be really upset.
I mean, it's been 15 years. You might have just forgotten.
I feel like I'd remember that. But yeah, and then you just went through, different areas of Norway's culture. You would see fjords, you'd see oil rigs that you'd go near.
I remember the oil rigs so vividly.
Because it was such an odd thing to go by. Like you're on your little boat. But then, of course, they talk about the folklore of trolls. And so that same area, the Frozen ride, where you go up and then you go back. No, you're going backwards and then you go down. And you see they have the big snowman that says, "Don't come back," or whatever it is.
Oh my gosh. I'm just looking at a little right through. This is fantastic. Okay, I'm going to look and see if I can see the troll face.
Okay, I'll keep talking.
Okay.
So it was originally a ginormous troll that was pretty freaky. And then you would go down. But
look, you're looking at it. Sorry, you're looking at his eye. The light comes out of his eye, I think. Can you see that?
No, it's not a troll. It's a Norwegian, like a Viking.
Oh, a Viking. Okay.
It's a Viking. Okay,
it's really hard to see.
If you look up a ride through, that is insane. It is. It's a Viking's face.
That's
I've never, ever known that.
Oh, so good. I'm excited.
I'm glad you looked that up.
Tonight after dinner, we should watch through
ride-throughs of all these. Done. We've gone down a dark path, you guys, of like watching. We're really missing Disney. So, what were we talking about? Oh, the other cool thing about Maelstrom that Frozen doesn't do is that during that same path where you're going backwards and then you're going to go down and there's the snowman, then Maelstrom is the troll. The back was open.
Yeah.
So you would go back and the back of your boat would kind of exit the building a little bit higher up.
Yeah.
And so people from the outside, like you could see the ride, like, that ride's about to go down the water.
And it was cool because it's right above where the waterfall is. There's that whole area is still there, but they stoned it off.
Yeah.
But then you could see them. Yeah. And it was great because you could hear, you could see it and then you see the boat turn, then you hear people scream. It was great.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
so the other thing is the exit for that is where you now wait in line. Like the offloading area is now where you wait. And it's really pretty. There's like the facades of the buildings and stuff. But I remember vividly that's where we used to get off.
Yes, I do too. Primeval Whirl.
Where was this one, Tyler?
This ride was so unappreciated.
Yeah.
For how fun it was. Now, if you've watched our Disney vlogs, you know I will talk for hours about Dino Land and how I thought it was brilliant and no one got it except me.
You know what? You're right. No one got it.
No one got it. So maybe it wasn't brilliant because I thought it was fantastic.
No, I think it's awesome.
If you know the whole backstory behind it, which I've talked about so many times.
Hey, babe, that would be a great history episode for you because pretty soon that whole area is going to be gone.
I got a ton of footage of it so we could talk a lot about because I wanted to make sure because I'm like, it's about to go away. Anyway, Primeval Whirl was another one where they kind of closed and then they're like, okay, we're never going to reopen it. And then boom, it was gone. They dismantled it.
Overnight.
But it was supposed to look like and did look like a pop-up school fair. You know what I mean? It was not like a roadside in a
Yeah.
parking lot kind of thing. And that's exactly
Like
what it
you're
looked
really
like.
not sure if you should be getting on
It
that
didn't
ride.
seem safe, but obviously this was a real ride, not a pop-up ride.
Yeah.
But if you rode it, it was so fun.
It's kind of scary.
Kind of scary. You look at it like, oh, it's like a little carnival ride. It was so fun. You would go way faster than you thought. You would spin.
It would whip you around those little turns. I'm
Yeah.
like, how are we doing this? Not flying up this ride.
It was so fun. And the idea was that it was a countdown to extinction and stuff like that. So I really missed this ride.
Another cool thing about that is there were 2 tracks.
Yeah.
So you'd get on and you'd either go on the left part of the roller coaster or the right. And it was the same thing, just mirrored. But we drug our feet on ever riding that for so many years. And we finally did. And then like a year and a half later, 2 years, it closed. And we were like, oh, the wasted time. We should have been riding Primeval Whirl.
All the wasted
But it was so kitschy. It fit so well into that land. They must have already known that they were maybe eventually going to close Dinoland down because they never did anything to like replace. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They just kind of were like, it's like they knew.
It was so good. I loved it.
Okay, last one we're going to talk about today, and then we're going to share our rankings. I'm so curious to hear your
I told her
rankings.
we were in our own separate offices and I wrote down my ranking and I yelled across to her as like, all right, I'm done with my ranking. And if yours is any different than mine, you're wrong.
What if ours match perfectly?
They might be pretty
I
darn
wonder if
close.
our top few will match.
I bet they're going to be awfully close.
Okay. Ellen's Energy Adventure.
I loved this ride so much. This is another one I think I have a full ride through. So let's
If
see.
not, someone does. I want
Let's
to watch
see
that.
what B-roll we can throw over this here. So this, we talked about this last week, right?
Did we? Yeah. Yeah, we
This
did. We did.
building was like 18, 19 airline hangars. I mean, it
It was humongous.
huge. It was the show pavilion.
So
And
it was
this
in, go ahead.
let's say it was like another 45-minute commitment too. Like once you decided to do it, you were there for a while.
And you genuinely, I don't think could get off. Even at the beginning, they would make an announcement like, if for any reason you think you might need to get off part of the way through, you can't.
Yeah.
So get out now, basically.
Yeah, basically they're like, unless you, and they made this announcement like 5 times because I'm sure they were constant. But I'm like, I think they were kind of saying like, if you have young kids or if you have,
You might not want to.
you're not going to be able to get off this one.
Boy, that'd be a great napping one.
I'm pretty sure we didn't have a couple times.
No, I
because
meant for a kid, but yeah, for us too.
there's these, okay, they were these ride vehicles. This ride must have held 200 people at a time.
First of all, let's say where it was. So it was in
Okay.
Epcot, where Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind is.
Yeah.
And they repurposed parts of the building, like where you go in, like in the original ride, you would walk in and there was a big room with some big screens and you would watch basically a pre-show thing.
Yeah.
They still do that in that same room with Terry Crews. When he says
Not in
Epcot
the
Terry,
same-
and
is that in the same room?
I'm about 100%
I
positive.
thought they completely gutted that building and
I
completely
think
redid it.
I wonder if they kept the front and then everything else is different because think about the way it's shaped. It's
Yeah,
exactly
maybe.
the same. It even has like
I
little
feel like
things
that's so
around
much
that you
further
can sit
back
on.
in the building, though. I have no idea. I don't know, but it seems like
Well, we'll pay attention.
because you would walk right into the doors, and there was like the tiled thing that had the clock in it. Remember that, the digital clock,
yeah.
and then you would walk right around there, and those were the big screens. Like now they've got the whole. I mean, the whole big queues that you go through, and then finally way back in the back, I feel like you get to the pre-show.
Looking it up. Hold on.
All right, well, you look this up. So originally, there was the universe of energy there, and then it got changed to Ellen's Energy Adventure. But this pre-show movie they had at the beginning, it was Ellen DeGeneres, Bill Nye, and Jamie Lee Curtis, and Alex Trebek, and they were in Jeopardy. And it was Ellen's dream, and I won't give away the whole plot, but she was basically.
They can't write it.
Well, I know. Anyways, this fantastic pre-show. Then you go in, and there's these. I think it was 3 rows of ride vehicles, and these ride vehicles were humongous. And there was like, I don't know, maybe if there were 3 rows and like 3 in each one, and each individual car. How long do you think the actual things were? 20 feet long. The benches that you sat on.
Maybe longer. I mean, they were
Think about
huge.
20-foot benches, 2 or 3 deep, 3 rows of them. They were huge. Like the scale of this ride was crazy. So this huge turntable would turn once the show actually started, and they said 8 times to get off if you can't.
Yeah.
Do it. So the entire thing would turn, and they had these humongous screens. I need a thesaurus, so I have other words than big, gigantic, and humongous. They had these humongous screens, and that's when the show started. And they would continue on talking about different ways of getting energy and that kind of stuff. And then the actual ride vehicles themselves would start moving, and you would go through like a prehistoric time because she got it was the Big Bang. The Ding Dang.
Sorry, I can't focus. I can't find the answer. So if you guys know the answer, let us know. It does say, and this was like before it opened, an article that was just talking about how like they expected to use part of it, but it was the building was in worse shape than they thought, so they needed to completely gut it. So I don't know if that means like completely, or if they kept some parts and then rebuilt the outer. So if you know the answer, let us know.
I feel like they kept the shell and nothing else. I think everything else pretty much got gutted, but I could be wrong.
Well, you'd think they'd like replace screens and stuff too, even if they did reuse that, because I mean...
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. I think all that was renewed. I think they literally just kept the shell of the building and everything else is new.
Okay.
As far as what I...
We got to move on.
Well, but it literally from just being in the building, that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, I just don't remember.
Okay, so I was talking about, she goes back to the Big Bang, the Ding Dang, and then boom, there's this huge explosion. The whole theater kind of lights up and stuff like that. But then the actual cars start moving, and you go through like the prehistoric times where they've got all these dinosaurs and stuff like that. Do you remember that?
And it's a huge, again, you're going around. Yeah. Oh yeah. The like this jungly area and there's dinosaurs and they did a really good job of mixing like screens where you're watching them on there to like hearing their voices and seeing them like their audio animatronics in the jungle. Like, and it's just weird. But that's what I loved about it.
Every time we passed the one of Ellen fighting off some sort of dinosaur, I'm like, that is the worst animatronic ever. It looks nothing like Ellen. Oh, anyway, okay. So you would go through the prehistoric thing, and then you'd go back and you'd watch more of the video. And then what was next? Do you remember what was after that?
I honestly, my memory stops after after the dinosaur one.
That's probably when we would fall asleep.
Yeah, but there was always, they're playing Jeopardy, and so at the end you like find out who the winner is. She learns all about energy. So a lot of use of screens. But what was also so weird is that when your seating area would move, it would wait to go in the right order in line. So like there's, let's say there's 12 of these giant things. Even if the theater's empty, all of those things have to move through. So you're just sitting there waiting, twiddling your thumbs, moving on through to the next thing. So it really was like a 45-minute commitment.
Yeah, just because the things, they moved very slowly as they would go through. Okay, I think that's about everything. I mean, we could talk about all these even more. But shall we do our rankings?
Okay.
All right, rapid fire rankings here. All right, what is here, I'll take off. Well, I can tell you, for me, Lights, Motor, Action was number 8. So there we go. Right. Cross that off. Okay.
Well, that was easy.
All right.
Number 7. What's your 7?
All right. My number 7 is Snow White's Scary Adventure.
Okay. Mine was Stitch's Great Escape. It was too scary.
Okay. Well, here, why don't you just read through yours?
No, we can do it this way because I have a feeling ours are going to match up.
From here on. Okay. Well, ish. Okay. So my number 6, Primeval Whirl.
Really? Mine was Snow White's Scary Adventures. Oh, you have Stitch higher up.
I did because that part of it is just, that reminds me of when we first started going. Aww. And so I have some nostalgia tied to it too. So then 5 for me was Stitch's Great Escape.
Okay, 5 for me was Primeval Whirl.
Okay, so we kind of flipped.
All right, so now we've done all 3 of those. So let's see if we match up our top 4.
So 4.
Backlot Tour.
Oof, no. Maelstrom I had for 4.
Okay, my 3 was Maelstrom.
Backlot Tour. So, okay, we flip-flopped those.
And that was hard, I have to say.
Those were tough.
I just think Maelstrom, now that we talked through Backlot Tour, I'm like, maybe I would move it to 3. Yeah. Because I have it on 4, but anyway.
I don't know.
I was really trying to ask myself, what do I wish I could re-ride the most? So that's what I was asking. Yep. And now that I'm thinking about, maybe Backlot Tour would be above that.
I feel like I don't remember it as well because it was earlier on in our Disney careers. And so I just feel like I don't remember it as much.
Yeah.
Okay. So then number 2,
Ellen's Energy Adventure. Number 1, Great movie ride.
Okay. So we were pretty close. Flip-flopped a couple things, but general vicinity.
Generally, yeah. All right. We asked you guys, of course, on our Instagram, which is Disneyville Podcast, I'm so excited to read these, what your favorite extinct rides are. Like we answered. But then we also asked you guys, what rides that you never got to ride do you wish you could have?
Yeah. Okay. So the first question we asked was, what ride did you actually ride that you missed the most?
Yeah. Abby Frey said, I would give my left hand to ride the Great Movie Ride again. Nostalgia at its best. Yeah. Again, that was both of our number ones too. And it wasn't even that long ago. I know. But it already has that. It was already nostalgic while you're riding it. Like, how did they do that?
I know.
Even Ellen's Energy, it felt, and maybe it's because it was so dated already that it just felt Oh,
Rachel Ray said, great movie ride. It felt so original Hollywood stars nostalgia. Yeah.
Yeah.
All those. Yeah, exactly.
okay. Another one for the Great Movie Ride from T. Lee 3. The Great Movie Ride, the singing in the rain scene.
Gosh, that was a
The
great
nostalgia.
one.
I completely forgot about
Oh,
that.
yeah. Oh, our Z-roll.
Yes. They're editing this currently. Thank you.
You can keep this or you can cut it out there, Justin. Nice. Said, the Great Movie Ride. Also, I know it's technically not a ride, but Captain EO. That's one that I don't think that I ever saw.
We never saw, yeah.
I think because it kept coming
Didn't
back.
they did. Yeah, I think we saw it once when it came back.
We did because I remember watching it, but I think it was like when it came back for like a short temporary time or something like that.
Case Capture says Body Wars at the Wonders of Life. Looked forward to it every trip as a youngling. Our list is long of ones like that we would love to have ridden.
I know.
I know if we start looking into it, there's probably footage of all of these online, but yeah.
I know. Frankly, Katie said, Maelstrom. I miss the nostalgia of it, but Frozen Ever After is my favorite ride of all time.
So there you go.
It's tough. They did such a good job. Like we were just watching
Same
something.
with Runaway Railway. Like I love that ride.
I know.
But I just would, I want both, okay?
Yeah.
Maybe have them playing in repertory.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you imagine? Allie Jean said, also Universe of Energy, not a lot of traveling theater dark rides anymore. No, there
This is
are
true.
not.
This is true. Ooh, Nicole824 said 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Whoa.
That's a throwback there.
Now, where was that? That was in
Is in Magic Kingdom.
Magic Kingdom, in the water that kind of used to be there. I know
No,
there's
that was
some.
where the swan boats were.
Oh, that's right.
This was a separate area.
Is it over in probably Tomorrowland?
But what's weird is they shut it down and they said it cost too much to run it. But I'm like, but they're still doing that in Disneyland. It was in Disneyland first. Then they opened it in Magic Kingdom and said it was too expensive, but they're still doing it in Disneyland. So I'm like, I don't know that that's
interesting.
Seems like an interesting reason to get rid of it.
Okay, Jenna Lassiter said, or Gina, sorry, Minnie's house in Toontown Fair.
Yeah.
All of Toontown. R.I.P. Ooh, Do It Blondie said, Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. The tech was insane and the cast was perfection. I genuinely did not realize that there were two separate Honey, I Shrunk the whatever things. There was the show.
Yeah.
And there was, I remember the little like play
Playground.
area.
Yeah.
It was like Honey, I Shrunk the Audience play set adventure or something like that.
yeah.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And that was really cool to walk around. And that was pre-kids. And I'm like, oh, our kids would love that now.
Yeah, I have footage of that too. It was right off of the streets of America.
Yep. But I never saw the show.
I did when I was really young.
Okay.
But
I'm sure it was
I have
really cool.
Very, very vague memories of it.
Oh.
Paige Marie Lawson said, Ellen thought it was a funny ride that lasted a long time. It was a very funny ride. That whole thing was just so well done. I remember it was just like there were actually like laugh out loud parts to it.
Payne Michelle Lee said, Primeval Whirl, the turns were rank. I'm telling you, those turns were crazy.
They'll get you.
They'll whip you out and you just fly out the side.
See this. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Dawn K0305 said, Horizons at Epcot. I loved being able to choose a way back at the end of the ride. See, that's the kind of stuff I'm like, so sad that was before our time.
Hey, Kelly Q said, I'm pre-sad about Boneyard, if that counts. Me too. We finally discovered the magic of the Boneyard play area for the kids in Dino Land. And now I'm like, well, this next time we better soak it up, everyone. Because
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Simply Nolani said, former cast member here, the sum of all thrills. It's where I worked and I'm sad it's no longer around. That was the one in Epcot, right?
that you couldn't think of. It was in Interventions.
It was in Interventions and it was like this. Like
robotic arm you go into, right? And it
Right. And you were like in a little capsule and it was this robotic arm and it felt like you were on a roller coaster itself. But I feel like it was all like 3D or it's like maybe you wore a mask or something in it, but you were enclosed. And so the whole thing is just kind of moving around.
was that the same one where you designed the roller coaster that you ride? That was a Disney Quest.
That was different.
By the way, that just makes me think of a history episode I want to do. Our very first true, I mean, this is kind of a history episode, but not really. Our very first researched history episode is going to be the next episode. And I'm not revealing the topic yet, but we are very excited about it. That's all. Stay tuned.
Ooh, you guys are getting some good ones here. Cassie White said, not a ride, but do you all remember Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in Hollywood Studios?
Yes.
That was so fun. We saw that, and then they changed it to the American Idol experience.
Which was also fun. They would have like auditions for the American Idol thing. Like when you're coming into Hollywood Studios, they'd be standing there like, hey, anyone sing? You want to? And they'd like have you sing on the spot and I think record you. And
then you would come
like,
back.
all right, come back at 2 p.m. Like
they did a couple different shows throughout the day, and then whoever won each one would then go into like the final one at the end of the day or something like that.
Yeah, I'm like, boy, that talk about a commitment.
Oh my gosh.
Your whole day is taken up by that. All right, so the next question we asked was what rides that are extinct that you never rode, like that you wish you could have. So, okay, Jenny E. Caruso said the original Figment ride with Dreamfinder. I would love to have ridden that. I feel in my bones. I had just posted a picture about Figment and whatever on our Instagram. And I was talking about how I just can feel in my bones that something is going to happen with Figment. But I think for the better. I don't think they're going to get rid of Figment. I think they're just going to up the ride in some way. And I have a strong feeling Dreamfinder will be a part of it.
I think
somehow,
so too.
some way.
I think so too. There are some good ones in here. We should just have a 3-hour episode where we just read everybody's comments because they're always so good.
We wish we could read them all. You guys is amazing.
So here's a couple. Dreaming of Main Street said alien encounter just to see if it's as scary as the lore makes it out to be. Yes. Yes,
I would
because
be very
I have the
curious.
stories from like my mom and stuff, but I never actually got to write it. So, and then it's me, Maddie, official, not her fake account. This is her official account. Maddie's official account says, based on how much you guys talked about it, dinosaur.
Okay, I'm going to read this anyway because it's not a ride, although we obviously have been flexible on our rules here. Pass DiMeo said, Osborne Xmas lights, not a ride, but so bummed I never got to see. Those, they would take the Streets of America and Hollywood Studios, which first of all, I also miss the Streets of America, even though there's nothing to do there. But they would deck that out with like thousands and thousands and thousands of light and do this like
Millions of
holiday
lights.
show. Yeah, millions. And it was truly a spectacle. And it is so sad.
Mm-hmm. And it was, if I remember right, the backstory was the actual family used to do it on their...
And it just got bigger and bigger every year.
And then they eventually
like,
donated it to Disney, right?
something like that. But I think they still had their hands and I don't know. Either way, I mean, so cool.
Merclaire Red Hair said Body Wars, Kitchen Cabaret, 80s, 90s Epcot.
Would love.
Yep.
I would love to have gone in those pavilions in their heyday. The Wonders of Life Pavilion, Horizons, like all of that. Okay, Nikki Vogel said swan boats.
Yes.
I mean, I would pay a lot to do the swan boats.
They used to have swan boats around the castle. And
because there was more water. They've covered a lot of it, right, over the years.
So that waterway there, you used to be able to take a little swan boat around. I would love to see that.
They were just big, beautiful swans. And imagine just the photos alone. I think that's part of why I love in Disneyland, the Storybook Land canal boats, because that's how it feels. It's that vibe in my head. That is truly,
Kristen Corte said, Ellen's Energy Adventure, it sounds like an absolute fever dream that I don't understand. That's kind of how it felt.
It does feel like a fever dream. Brianna Carson said, Skyway at Magic Kingdom would have been so cool to have a bird's eye view of Fantasyland. Yeah, like anytime I see pictures of those like sky bucket things, I'm like,
oh, I know. Disneyland or Disney World. Yeah, a lot of people mentioned the buckets.
Because, I mean, that would be pretty cool to be able to do that. I'm sure the line would be crazy all the time. But it is kind of cool that they ended up creating the Skyliner, which is very much the same idea. But, of course, you're going way farther away.
Right. Yeah, kind of the new age version of it, yeah.
So Happily Ever Honeymooner said, Disney's Animal Kingdom riverboat ride. I don't even know what they called it, but would love to experience it. I don't know what this is.
Riverboat ride. I don't even,
I gotta look this up. I mean, that sounds incredible.
Unless, is he talking about
Cali River Rapids?
Navi River Journey. Oh, Cali River Rapids,
Is that still there?
Cali River Rapids, yeah.
We have not ridden that in so many years. It's kind of crazy that I'm like, where even is that? That's like one thing in Disney that I'm like, because we never really want to get wet, although really it would feel great.
We
but
rode
with the
it,
kids especially.
We rode it once, maybe twice, and got soaked.
I mean, soaked.
Drenched. And so we were like, all right,
did it
never again. Hannah Wilson, too, said, everyone raves about Horizons, and I wish I could have experienced. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw quite a few about Horizons and quite a few about Body Wars, too.
Yeah. Kitchen Cabaret, all those like 80s.
I know.
Oh, so good.
Okay, so we always appreciate when you guys take the time to write us a review. We read through them all. They make us so happy because it's kind of like that place where we get to like see how you guys feel about what we're doing because we so so love doing this. Like this is an outlet for us. I think we've needed for a long time. I got just all this in my head. I need somewhere to get out. Like
That's exactly it.
Anyway, so this is one of the sweetest reviews ever. So Samantha C. Jones said, can you please release an episode? And it cut off the title, but she explains it. She says, in all seriousness, if Tyler and Jessica release an episode once a day, I would listen every day. That's so sweet. I found this podcast after coming across Jessica's channel, finding her baby videos helpful. We welcomed our first baby girl this July. Congratulations. Oh my gosh. Oh, you're in the newborn haze. Luckily,
you're in the thick of it.
You are. Luckily, I kept watching and found the Disney vlogs and the Disneyville podcast. I've caught up on all the episodes and watched the YouTube versions with the video to immerse myself in Disney World during maternity leave. I cannot wait to bring my baby once she gets older to Disney, and I'm learning so much about what to do and when to go because of their expertise, fun, and experiences. Them sharing their daughter's experiences through the parks as well, and what brings them to the happiest tears is amazing. So glad that fun Disney adults exist and that the Bronze help us bring the Disney magic to everyday life. That was so sweet. Thank you so much.
So kind. Oh my gosh, that's
just
so nice.
Fills my heart to the brim.
I love that.
Thank you, Samantha.
That's so nice. So hey, this is exciting. We've got one more episode. We're about to film here next week. I mean, obviously it'll be 2 weeks for you guys, but we're doing that. But then you're gonna have some Disney vlogs coming out here soon too. So we haven't had Disney vlogs in a while. So get excited. Hopefully within, I guess, from this point, a month.
It'll be soon. We're honestly, if you're listening to this episode, we are either on the trip or about to be. So we'll have a lot of content. We love to post to our Instagram stories on the Disneyville podcast Instagram while we're there. So definitely for that week or 8 days, whatever, we will be posting like crazy. Follow along. So if you have not followed us yet on Instagram, this would be an awesome time to do it. And we'll usually save all of the stories to a highlight reel so that you can see from that trip. Like we have our last trip from April there as a highlight reel. You can see all of the escapades we get into. Yeah. But we have a question for you guys. We're still not sure. Do you want to ask? Do we?
Yeah,
we don't have to.
I'm really unsure about this.
We are unsure, yeah.
So, okay, as of right now, all of our Disney vlogs are on my channel, Tyler Travels TV, or you can just search Tyler Braun. All of our Disney vlogs are there.
BRAUN, by the way.
Yeah, BRAUN.
Yep.
We are considering, with a 20% chance of actually doing it, moving all of the Disney vlogs from all these different years of us going.
Or at least the most recent years.
But moving all our Disney vlogs to our Disneyville podcast channel. So you'd have the podcast and all the Disney vlogs in one place. And then my channel would just be travel vlogs, home vlogs, all that kind of stuff.
Vlogmas,
all
maybe.
The Disney stuff would be under the Disneyville umbrella, if you will. And then
yeah.
moving forward, all the Disney vlogs would be posted here.
On Disneyville's YouTube channel.
Right. So that's kind of what we're considering doing. Is that something, would it make a difference to you guys? Do you even care?
Our reservation is that we have a bigger following on Tyler's channel. So it feels like our fear is that the people that would usually watch them, like obviously we know a lot of you guys that love Disney would probably watch them, you know, but there's a lot more people that love Disney that just don't follow the podcast. So it's like, we don't want to, yeah, and that's fine. I get it. My point being that we worry that like a lot of the people that would usually watch it won't see it as easily. And we're like, well, we don't want to miss out on all those thousands of people that don't necessarily follow us.
I feel like they would
really
end up
torn.
I feel like they would end up, for now, getting like 30% of the views they would get if they were on my channel. But then maybe over time,
moving forward, it does make more sense to have them here. So we know eventually we probably will do it. We're trying to decide, is that time now? So let us know your thoughts.
Maybe, yeah.
Do you even care?
But I don't know if
And by the way, if you have not watched our vlogs, I mean, if I do say so myself, I don't edit them. You do. Or no,
Justin and Lacey.
What am I talking about? Yeah. I'm thinking about the other
Justin
travel.
And Lacey,
yeah, I'm sorry. Justin and Lacey are like, what the heck? Like, it's us.
They should pop up
I'm sorry.
We talk about Justin and Lacey all the time. I want them to have a 3-second clip of them sitting there waving.
Please insert that right now.
So every time we talk about Justin and Lacey, they can use the same 3-second clip of them going.
I would love that. They are big Disney nerds too, by the way.
They have
Their
a ton
channel,
of Disney vlogs, yes.
Yes, that's how I found them, and then our whole world was turned upside down.
And now we're best friends.
Now we're best friends. Anyway, they have a Disney focused channel too, but they also do regular life vlogs. So you should check them out. Their channel is Our Z Roll. I literally do not miss a video of theirs.
Yeah.
They have a podcast too. Like if you like us, you would love them too. But they are big into Disney Cruise and Disneyland too. So they do a lot of that kind of content. But why am I bringing them up? Wait, what were we even talking about? Oh, if you were into Disney vlogs or you haven't seen our Disney vlogs, they edit them and they edit them really well. And they are so high quality and so good. And I'm always so proud of our Disney vlogs the past few years.
Yeah.
So if you are needing that Disney fix, go back to our last trip and watch that series. Go back. So we'll link, if you're on YouTube, we can try to remember to link it on our, it's linked on our Disney
on our
podcast.
on our YouTube channel. They should already.
Yeah, but anyway, all right. This video is a long,
Ooh, all right.
this podcast, I should say. Anyway, okay.
All
we
right.
love you guys.
We'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.